Hello, everyone. Welcome to Between Bells podcast. And today we're going to talk about our experiences with university applications as high school students.
Well, for my experience, I feel like, well, it's so lengthy. Like, for UBC, it's so long, like, so many questions. SFU is a little bit easier. I feel like it really depends on, like,
What you're applying for.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, especially for business, it's, you have to answer a lot more questions. Like, for SFU, like, you have to type up a whole, like, essay, while, like, other programs, you don't really have to do that.
Yeah, so for example, like me, I'm trying to, for example, for other programs such as like engineering or health science or general science, like for SFU, the application only took me like literally 10 minutes. I just had to go into my education planner and then submit like my choice for program, and then that was literally it. So it like I was doing it at 12 a.m. because I had FOMO and everyone else around me um was applying already, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to start applying. It took me 10 minutes and I was like, damn, this is so fast. Whereas UBC, like she mentioned, it's so lengthy and so complicated.
Yeah. Well, I also want to talk about the fact that how when each person who applies for a different school, it's if you're applying for the same program, it's like a different price for every single person, which I think is crazy. I actually think that's wild. Like it's not fair at all.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, for example, I have two other friends who applied to the same exact program as me at the same time. We literally did it together during our free block, and then we all pay different pricings for it. And I'm like, why? Like, how do they justify the different prices?
Yeah, and I feel like for right now, like clubs like really do matter. Like some people um they really think that clubs don't matter, but like especially for UBC, you need at least five to talk about and to take away your experiences from. Um Same with I think SFU is also the same for business.
For SFU, for me, they didn't even look at any extracurriculars. Like it's solely based on grades. So actually, if someone were to have not like their grades are not like super competitive, then actually maybe SFU in that way is harder to get into because they don't care about your extracurriculars. They're just looking at your grades. So for other faculties, apart from business, it's actually much simpler, the application process, but they don't look at your extracurriculars.
Yeah, but like for UBC, if your grades are not like super great, like obviously, yeah, they do put out like, oh, like what's the minimum that people got last year? And obviously, there's like that kind of minimum point that you should be at. But if there's any discrepancies, like they have a box where you would put like, oh, why? If anything special happened to you, like with between your grades, you should explain why and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they want it like they're open to hearing about your story. Like for example, if I don't know, a family member like passed away during that period of time and that like really took a huge toll on your mental health and you couldn't really focus then, like if you are able to explain it, then I'm sure they'd be able to understand as well. So I think in terms of that, UBC's application is much more understanding. And they also know that like a lot of students might not thrive at school academically, but they probably do within the community, and they're trying to get people who are well-rounded in that sense. That's why they're looking for.
Yeah, and for business for UBC, there was around I think 5 to 6 questions asked. But I feel like for most universities, especially for business, they're all of them are pretty much asking the same thing. Like I've done some practice questions before, and the gist of it's quite similar. I feel like if you're really interested and you know that you want to pursue business, I think it's a great idea to be ahead and look up some example questions and answer them yourself. So maybe if it's similar, you can pick points out of what you've previously answered and use it to do your personal profile.
I think also UBC has published the questions that they would ask on the website. So if that's what you want to look at, then like if you want to practice and prepare beforehand, then you can definitely check it out.
Yeah, but that I think that's for the general questions, not for business. Business is just you open up my ed planner and you'll see the questions there. I think doing scholarships, I think university scholarships, I feel like it depends on what type of scholarship it is and how well you see yourself. Um, for like big university scholarships, I think that it depends for yourself, each person. But I personally didn't apply for them because I personally don't think it's worth my time. I think that I could have applied for different other scholarships that may be more beneficial for me.
Yeah, in terms of scholarships, I think actually a lot of them are more available after you've been admitted to a university. While right now I feel like um some of the big scholarships, like the Loran Scholarship, or there's one for STEM, but basically, I feel like their application process is much more complicated, and there's actually a lot that you have to put in. It's almost as if it's like a university application, but even more. And you have to find references, and your reference has to write you a reference letter as well. Um, and I actually didn't even know about this scholarship until like 2 weeks before the deadline, so I had to like cram it, but I did manage to get it done.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why I think that I think it might be more worthwhile to focus on your actual admission instead of
Mhm.
like a scholarship. And if anything, like if you need financial aid, like you can always apply for that later. Like, yeah.
And there's also something called bursaries,
Mm,
something like that.
hmm.
Like those are specifically for people with financial needs. Like, I'm pretty sure as long as you can get into the university, they always have some sort of support that they can give you. Um, but yeah, like she mentioned that it's important to prioritize your time because time is something you definitely don't have as a senior.
And definitely if you are interested in scholarships, like before you apply, I would say maybe in your grade 11 year, you should start looking because if it repeats multiple times, like you definitely know it's going to come out next year and you can be prepared with lining up your references and asking them like for a reference letter. I think that's a good idea.
For sure. And also, like we mentioned, you can actually start your university applications before. Like I know a person, they started their university applications in grade 11, like in the beginning of grade 11, so they had a whole year to prep for that. I think that's a bit too extreme, but it works out for them, so that's good.
Yeah. So I want to ask like what's some advice you would give to your grade eight self if there's any like grade eights or anything, anybody who's listening who's in the younger grades.
Yeah, so I think for myself, I've always been someone like who tries like super hard, works really hard to make sure my grades are like above average. I always focused on my academics, making sure I did well. Um, but I think actually what would have been more enjoyable, what would have created a more enjoyable high school um life for me is if I actually spent more time in grade 8, 9, honestly just making more friends, making more connections, genuinely enjoying like what high school has to offer, maybe joining more clubs, doing more activities, and just throwing myself out there and exploring new opportunities because I feel like in grade 8, grade 9, I was so focused on my academics that I forgot to have fun because in grade 8 and grade 9, we were still 13, 14. But I think something that a lot of us um could relate to is that that was for me, for us, grade 8 and grade 9 was when COVID was still like a really big thing. So that could be a reason why I wasn't like out there and just doing whatever.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, um, yeah, don't focus on your grades. I know that's really bad to say, but like literally your grades do not matter until like grade 11 or grade 12 courses.
Hmm.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like go out and do something. Like grade 8, grade 9 grades do not matter. Nobody's gonna look at them.
Hmm. It's not even going to show up on your transcript.
Yeah, like there's no point of like focusing on that. Like if anything, like maybe get ahead and do other courses or like
Hmm.
tutor or something. Like, don't just focus on your grades. I feel like you should like make clubs that you like to do and like join other clubs and make as much friends as you can and just enjoy it while you can. Because like we're both struggling. We're both struggling in high school. Like,
No, yeah.
we are burnt out.
We are
Senioritis
definitely,
is real.
yeah, senioritis is so real. And um, back in grade 11, I was like, what do you mean you let senioritis get to you? There's no way you would be burnt out now when you've worked so hard. Like that was what I was thinking to the seniors last year. I was like, no way I'd be burnt out, right? Like, and also, like I think like like don't not care about your grades in grade 8 and grade 9. Like your grades are still important.
You should
You
still
should
pass.
yeah, you should still pass and you should still aim for like
Maybe a
not
good like 70,
yeah,
80.
good 70, 80. But like, it's also about like work habits too, right? Like you got to
Mm-hmm.
start building them from the start. But I'm just saying, like, don't stress too much about your grades.
Yeah.
Like, don't sacrifice your life, your social life for your grades in grade 8 and grade 9. In grade 10, that's when your grades will be on your transcript. But that in grade 10, you still have room to fail. Like, you still, like, don't fail, but like, you still have room to struggle and to fail. Not well, yeah, you still have room to fail. So, like, don't stress too much, but grade 10 is also a time where you have to start realizing, hey, things are going to get serious soon. You better start building good habits so that you can do well in grade 11 and grade 12.
Like, don't miss out specifically on like
Mhm.
making friends and stuff like that for your grades. Like, I feel like, I don't know. But like also at the same time, like grade 8 to grade 10 should be the period of time where you learn you learn your work and like fun habits. Like
Mhm.
you learn a good balance for them. I feel
Mhm.
like that's the most important because without fun, you'll get burnt out so fast and
Mhm.
you won't enjoy anything. Well,
Mhm.
as you still need to work hard
Mhm.
for the stuff that you want. And I feel like it should be everyone's goal to get a good grade. And especially I feel like our year, it's so competitive.
It's super competitive.
Like I don't know what it is, but like everyone I've talked to is like aiming for like a high 90s.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's like yeah, like everyone should have that goal, but like at the same time for myself, I feel like it's easy to compare with other people. And I feel like it's like it gives a lot of stress and
Yeah, for
anxiety.
sure. Like, I it's hard for me to say because I enjoy comparing myself with other people. But the problem is when you're comparing yourself with other people, you always just compare like the comparison that causes anxiety is when you compare yourself with people who are quote unquote better than you, smarter than you, gets things quicker than you. But the problem is like there's always going to be someone who's better than you, smarter than you. So stop comparing yourself with other people because that's not really your competition. Your competition is yourself. Like as cheesy as it sounds, like hmm, just make sure that you're doing better than you were yesterday. But and it's also okay if you are not doing as well as you were yesterday, as long as you keep going.
Yeah, I feel like rather than comparing yourself with someone who's better than you, be friends with people who are better than you.
Yes, for sure.
Like you turn out to be the person who you surround yourself with. Like
For sure.
definitely that's a lesson I've literally taken from grade 8 is that I've I feel like you surround yourself with smart people, you'll become smarter.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just gotta keep upgrading. If you're with people who are pulling you down, you're gonna be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you don't think so, other people are gonna think so.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Like, yeah, I totally agree. I think um if you surround yourself with smart people, you're bound to want to work harder. You're bound to want to fit in. So you're going to work harder. You're going to try and get the same grades that they're getting. And ultimately, it will improve your self-esteem, right? And also your, yeah, I think, and also I think there's a difference between people who are naturally smart, like they're born geniuses, and there are people who just work really hard. I think it's important to know the difference because how can you compare yourself with someone who's naturally so smart, right? Like that's just not fair to you.
Yeah. And I feel like it like not being naturally smart only takes you so far. Like
Mm-hmm.
being naturally smart, there's only certain length you can bring yourself towards. Like if you put the work in, you'll get far. But I've seen so many naturally smart people just give up because they think that they can just do it on their
Mm-hmm.
own. They don't
For
have to
sure.
study, they don't have to work
Mm-hmm.
hard, they don't have to
Mm-hmm.
do homework.
Mm-hmm.
But that's seriously like not the case. Like
Mm-hmm.
100%, like I feel like it's also more rewarding
Yeah,
if
for
you work
sure.
harder.
Yeah, yeah. Because like for example, if you like if I personally know like a few people who like they've always been super smart. Like throughout their life, they've always been known as a smart kid. So um at school, right? Like for tests, they're like, oh, I don't need to study for this test. I already know everything, right? But then actually like they might just be bad test takers. I don't know. But um they actually all ended up at like not as good schools, right? Because they didn't go to the dream school that they wanted to go to. But I'm sure if they put in 2 or 3 hours more to study to really understand the material, they would have gone so far.
Yeah. And I feel like it's disappointing to see that. Like you see so much potential in someone, you're
Yeah,
like, oh, they could have done better. But it's
exactly.
also not like obviously it's not my place to like say that, but like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people, even like parents, I feel like they would see that in their kids.
Yeah, yeah, yes, I totally agree. But like I think don't waste your potential, right? Like I think it's better to well, for me personally, I can't speak for other people, but for me personally, I'd rather be burnt out than regret not trying hard
Yeah,
enough.
100%.
Because if I'm burnt
You
out,
can't
I
go
can,
back.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You can't go back. If I'm burnt out, I can focus on the future. I can focus on maybe recovering, right? Like I can
Hmm.
focus on, like, yeah, maybe grade 12 senior year is burning me out, but it's okay because I have winter break, I have spring
Hmm.
break, I have a long weekend, I have summer break. I can always recharge, but I can never go back and study harder for a test.
Yeah. And like I feel like with my friends, a lot of them don't even know what they're gonna do in university. And I think it's kind of crazy how like the universe is asking literal like 16-year-olds on like what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And like basically your entire high school, like every single year, you're planning out like the courses you want to do. And some of them have to be um like aligned with what you want to do in university, right? So it's like you're asking like a 15-year-old kid like what they want to do. Like there's so many options. It's seriously,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously like in this economy, like all of us are just trying to survive with
Mm-hmm.
um like money. So like people are not doing what they actually want to do.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. Like, um, a lot of times what you want to do is different from what will help you earn enough money to actually survive. Like, I think, and also like back to what she said, like, about not knowing what to do. I think, like, genuinely speaking, who has never doubted their choice in their career, right? And especially in this day and age, a lot of adults are changing their careers. Like, my dentist is literally has a pharmacy degree and a dentistry degree. Like, I'm just saying, like a lot of people change their careers because honestly, like how are we supposed to know what we actually enjoy? And
Yeah.
also what we enjoy might be different from what we're good at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you really have to decide if you want to do something you genuinely enjoy, even though you might not be too good at it, or if you want to do something you're great at, like you're super confident in, right?
Yeah, I feel like the other side of that is that okay, like if you do find something that you like to do every day, like that but can become repetitive.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's why I see it a job will always be a job. Like no matter what you do, it's going to be boring at the end of the day because that's your job, right? You seem like you see it as something you're forced to do to survive, right? To earn the money to survive. And honestly, actually, I don't think I would do something I enjoy as a job because I'm scared that what if I actually really like this thing and I don't want to ruin it for myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want to ruin it for myself by doing it every single day. So I think as long as your job is not something you despise, absolutely hate, then do the thing that you're good at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Like I feel like people who do arts like ceramics or something, if they do it like every day and have to constantly keep up with the orders and stuff like that would actually crush me.
Mhm.
Well, for me, like my high school experience, well, it's not over yet, so there's that. But I feel like I feel like I did in grade 8 to grade 12, like I did not focus too much on academics. But at the same time, like I focus a lot more on my hobbies and what I like to do. Um, like for both of us, we're in mini school. Um, it was a good experience. I don't know if I would say it's worth it.
Worth it.
Um, I feel like for every school it's different. My school specifically, it was not too different from mainstream. So yeah, but my mini school for my school is abolished. So yeah, so there's sorry to our listeners who want to go to my school for mini school. It is there, but it's a different type of program now.
Mhm.
Yeah. So how was your experience in mini school?
For me, I personally really enjoyed it. I made a lot of very meaningful friendships, not really. Well, I guess it's a relationship, but I've made really good friends. I mean, I've met this girl from the mini school program. We were actually both like going in for the interview back in grade 7 actually, and then we started talking then, and then we got each other's contact information, but we never really reached out to each other just because we didn't know each other, right? But then on the first day of school, I remember seeing them and I was like, hey, you were that girl from that like info session, right? Or like the interview, right? And then they were like, yeah, oh my gosh. And then turns out we have so many things in common. Like we both went to different elementary schools, but turns out we actually live like 2 blocks away from each other, and we don't even go to the same like district, right? Um,
Mhm.
and we've been best friends since, and I am so grateful to have been able to develop such a meaningful and sincere and genuine friendship with her, and also just with a lot of other people. Like I think with many schools, you for at least my program, I have 4 of the same classes with the same 28 kids for 4 years. So like honestly, I feel like in those classes I can be my most genuine self. Like I feel like I'm not afraid to make a fool of myself because we're all just gonna laugh about it and then we're gonna move on. Like I don't really care what they think because like I mean I wouldn't say I'm friends with everyone there, but we are acquaintances and like we go camping, we do all sorts of field trips and everything together. We've seen each other like a mess from like biking up like hills like for hours, and it's just I think the relationship is quite genuine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I feel like for my mini school, half of us were like personality hires, and then half of us were very, very academic based. I
Mm.
quite like that because like obviously all of us were mixed together.
Mhm.
Yeah. So like with the academic people, they had a really good like bubbly personality as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
But I feel like it was really good that everybody got to like basically basically just be mixed with each group.
Mhm. For me, it was also the same. Like we had all sorts of different people in the mini school, but I think, well, for me personally, I know that some people like they didn't enjoy it as much because I don't know, they thought other people were weird or something. But for me, like I don't really care. Like I mean, I feel like I can talk to a lot of people. Like I don't really have that big of an opinion, but for sure, there's definitely a lot of different types of people.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like it also creates a good sense of community.
Hmm.
You basically get stuck with these people like for like 4 years, you know them so
Hmm.
well. Like
Hmm.
it creates like bigger bonds.
I also think like it also creates different perspectives, right? And it actually enables you to develop friendships with different types of people. Because, for example, I would have never thought that I would be friends with some people in that program. Like, if I wasn't in that program, I probably would have never spoken to them. But because I am, I'm forced to be with them, that this environment actually enables me to talk to different people that I never thought I would talk to. And I think in that sense, it's good to be exposed to different types of people because in the real world, after high school and university or in your jobs or whatever, like there's going to be all sorts of different people, and it's important to be exposed to different types of people because that's what the world is, right? So on the topic of references, I just wanted to say that it's actually really important to start building um relationships with your teachers, especially the teachers who like have seen you struggle, but also have seen you persevere, have seen you like excel because of like the effort that you put into because for references, like you can't just randomly ask the teacher who probably barely even knows you, right? You need to make a statement in their class. And it's better if you have a teacher who actually have taught you for multiple years, but obviously that's challenging if you don't get to pick your where did that just come from? If you don't get to pick your teachers, then you can't really decide or control that. But just if it's possible, make sure you have good relationships with your teachers because not only can they be your reference, they can also be someone who can guide you through your journey in high school. Well, this concludes our first episode. Thank you so much for listening. And in this episode, we talked about university applications and the struggles and our personal experiences. If you can relate to us, or if you have any questions or concerns or anything you want us to talk about for our next episode, please let us know.